of what is taking center stage in the country, the biggest story, that truce between the Right Honorable Raila Odinga and the president, that is Dr. William Samoei Ruto. Just what way forward, even as it's now on the parliamentary side, to make sure that they strike a deal on a bipartisan approach as to how these matters will be solved for purposes of posterity. That's what we're discussing, and later on also we'll be shifting gears to matters credit and importantly the question of finances. So make sure that you keep it right here until we close it, expecting to get a hold of Honorable Patience Nyange as well as Honorable Robert Alai and Honorable Sunday Oyolo. I mean, it will be a great conversation, so make sure that you keep it right here. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47KE. That's how you interact with us. We sampled some of your comment as we continue with the broadcast. Now, the Sacred Heart Mukumu Girls High School in Kakamega County has been closed indefinitely after 2 students died from this suspected food and water poisoning that is in recent weeks. The school has made headlines after a large number of students were hospitalized with symptoms including vomiting, diarrhea, and dizziness. The 2 students who died were among the 500 who fell ill and admitted to Kakamega General Hospital and other health facilities.
Deep thoughts of a parent whose child had just begun a secondary school journey. One of the students from the Sacred Heart Mukumu Girls High School who passed on after a stomach infection.
I received information on Tuesday last week from the deputy principal of Mukumu Girls that I should pick my daughter the following day. So that's what we did. We took her to the hospital. She was told that she has bacterial infection. Then she was given drugs. Then she was told to go and take the drugs at home.
The parent of the Form 1 student accepting, albeit painfully, that a daughter who had just big dreams is no more.
She was beautiful in the heart, beautiful at the face, beautiful even in her, and everything she does, she was the best. So I've lost a daughter, I've lost a friend, I've lost my mentor, I've lost all.
In a statement from the school addressed to parents dated 2nd of April, the senior principal, Ms. Frida Ndolo, confirmed the 2 students who had died were in Form 1 and Form 2, urging parents to always take kids to hospital whenever they are sent home from school for treatment. Western Regional Director of Education Alfred Opiero said that they have deliberated to close the school with immediate effect following the death of the 2 students to give room for investigations by health officers and establish the cause of the deaths and illness.
After wider consultation with key duty bearers or key stakeholders here, we have agreed that we suspend learning from today. However, the school management will consult with your parents. I think you will start traveling tomorrow.
Kakamega Governor Fernandez Baraza has however said that the school should only be closed for 3 weeks, as that would be enough time for investigations to be conducted.
Mwito wangu kwa wazazi, wanafunzi wakitoka hapa waende hospitali, kwa sababu kile kisa ambacho kilitendeka siku ya tarehe 29, mzazi alichukua mwanafunzi hapa akaenda naye nyumbani na hatujui kama alipelekwa hospitali.
Kakamega Senator Dr. Boni Alwale, accompanied by the county women representative Elsie Muhanda, during the consultative meeting inside the school compound with stakeholders, described the situation at the school as dire, saying urgent measures should be taken to address the underlying cause of the unknown sickness.
I am here with the Directorate of Quality Assurance. They investigated the issue last year, made findings, made recommendations, but those findings were not acted upon. And this is why this has recurred.
Ndio tunasema ya kwamba task force ifomiwe mara moja, a special task force, kuangalia zile shida zenye ziko kwa hii shule.
Initial findings by medics at the Kakamega General Hospital indicated that learners may have suffered food or water poisoning. Samples from the school were collected and sent to the Kakamega Medical Research Institute for analysis. Norbert Oduor, TV 47.
And now, a day after suggesting a bipartisan approach to solve a host of issues raised by the opposition, including recruitment of new IEBC chairperson and commissioners, President William Ruto has initiated the process by meeting members of the Kenya Kwanza leadership in the National Assembly and the Senate. This came hours after Raila Odinga called off his Monday and Thursday demonstrations to allow the president to act on the opposition's grievances, as Micah Gungu details.
A day after President William Ruto agreed to give dialogue a chance in a bid to address some of the concerns raised by Azimio leader Raila Odinga, the head of state on Monday held a meeting with leader of majority in the Senate and the National Assembly to kickstart the process. Ruto said the issues raised by the opposition will be dealt with by Parliament, so as to give the executive arm of the government an opportunity to address other matters pertaining to development. In a statement, Ruto said, and I quote, "We have asked the parliamentary leadership of both houses to consider our proposal for a bipartisan approach to addressing the matters raised by the opposition as a priority." End of quote. The meeting came on the backdrop of Ruto's address to the nation on Sunday, where he expressed willingness to have a discussion with the opposition on the emotive issue of recruiting new IEBC chairperson and commissioners.
There is no distinction between government and the opposition. Once you compromise accountability and oversight, you are in for a lot of trouble.
A few moments after the president's address, Azimio leader Raila Odinga called off the bi-weekly protest to give dialogue a chance.
Should there be no meaningful engagement or response from Hon Ruto to our counter-offer, we resolve to resume our demonstrations after 1 week.
Ruto said his foot soldiers and those of the opposition in parliament can agree on how IEBC new commissioners will be recruited. In his statement, he said, and I quote, "We are convinced the issues shall be conclusively handled by Parliament in order to allow us to focus on our economic transformation program." End of quote. The meeting at State House in Nairobi on Monday morning was attended by, among others, Kimani Ichung'wah, majority leader in the National Assembly, and his Senate counterpart, Kericho Senator Aaron Cheruiyot. Meanwhile, following demands by Azimio leader Raila Odinga to have all those arrested during the mass action protest freed unconditionally to pave way for talks with President William Ruto, Azimio leaders in Parliament Opiyo Wandayi and Stewart Madzayo can heave with relief after the court dropped their case earlier Monday. Lawyer Dunstan Omari confirmed that the Director of Public Prosecution DPP Nordin Haji dropped charges against Wandayi, Madzayo and 4 others who are charged with destruction of property during the mass action.
Tukiomba wapewe dhamana, serikali iliweza kukashifu sana na kusema kwamba wasipewe dhamana, na iwapo watapewa dhamana kuwekwe ilani kubwa sana kwa kamba passport zao ziweze kuwekwa pale na mambo kadhaa.
And it has been brought clear that this indeed was a political matter with the political influences and by the political agreements that we've seen in our country.
Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
And Kenyans, that is Kenyan citizens from different parts of the country, have praised the decision of the Raila Odinga-led Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition to call off their weekly protests. However, some opinion leaders are calling on both the government and the opposition to focus on important issues affecting the common citizens as they have to dialogue that is on the table. They point out that both President William Ruto and the opposition leader have not given much emphasis on the cost of living, despite their call for a truce on Sunday to make way for dialogue on some of the issues raised by the Azimio coalition. Oige William has more on that story.
Monday, a sense of calm and orderliness dominated the country's capital, Nairobi. Contrary to the previous Mondays, where for the better part of the day dramatic fierce exchange between police and protesters were experienced. With the stinging tear gas and stones exchanged between the police and protesters in some parts of Nairobi metropolitan area, This follows a call for truce between the government and the opposition after President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga agreed to meet on the dialogue table through parliament. The announcement by Odinga to suspend the weekly demonstrations has seen a sense of calm witnessed in majority of towns affected earlier.
Sasa hii sisi kama Wakenya tumefurahia kwa sababu kama watu wawili wanafurutana wakubwa, wananchi ndio wanaumia.
Mwananchi wakati tunapigana, mwananchi sisi ndio tunaumia, biashara zinakwama. Biashara zinaweza kurudi chini. Tunashukuru Mungu kwa sababu siku ya leo shughuli ni za kawaida na tuko na amani.
Sema hivi unga irudi 70, uchumi irudi chini, mafuta irudi 100, sava ifunguliwe.
Bearing the greatest brand of the weekly anti-Kenya Kwanza government protest were business person, and in a spot check on some of the counties, the businessmen and women are calling upon the two top political heavyweights to ensure that the country remains stable.
Kenya ni kubwa kuliko mtu yoyote, na kama wafanyabiashara tulikuwa tumeumia, tulikuwa tumepoteza pakubwa.
Vile wa president umefikiria uita huyu mzee mkae chini, mimi nimeshukuru. Ndio kila mwananchi Kenya mzima atulie na aendelee na biashara yake nzuri.
Kwa hivyo kama tungeendelea hivyo ni kumaanisha kwamba mwananchi ambaye ako pale chini angeendelea kuadhirika zaidi.
A section of the church has also lauded President William Ruto and his political nemesis Azimio leader Raila Odinga for giving dialogue a chance.
Na ili tuache taifa liendelee, tukubali sisi zote tuunge mkono jambo hili ambalo ni letu, ni la opposition na ni la serikali, ili kutimiza matakwa ya mwananchi.
Although there is a semblance of peace in the country, a group of civil society members has accused both the government and the opposition of shying away from critical issues that directly impact on the common mwananchi. They claim that both parties agreed to engage in talks through parliament, but the discussion are yet to address the stalemate over the IEBC selection panel and other pertinent issues affecting the public.
As we see what is going to unfold by the pronouncement by the president, as well as also the leader of the Azimio la Umoja, the people must come first.
This is a call on the political leadership as they move to the dialogue, to move away from a bipartisan process, because so far Parliament has not been strong enough in ensuring that they take the necessary measures to lower the cost of living.
Azimio la Umoja has been spearheading protests for the last 2 weeks, protesting against the selection panel tasked with reconstituting IEBC, the high cost of living, and an audit on IEBC's server. In response, President William Ruto proposed a bipartisan engagement in parliament to address these issues, which Raila has agreed to. However, Raila and his team have set a 1-week ultimatum for the issues to be addressed, cautioning that they will resume protest if their demands are not met. Muige William, TV 47.
Now, the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Officials are threatening to ask their members in areas prone to insecurity to withdraw from the areas over the rampant spate of insecurity in many parts of Baringo County. Baringo Kupet Branch Secretary General Zakaria Nyumboi said the trauma of insecurity that teachers and learners in those regions undergo is something the government needs to put more emphasis on before the unions take a raft of measures in those affected regions. Chichi Josephine with more.
The threat by the post-primary officials to withdraw their teachers due to the state of insecurity in Baringo that has been worsening with time, an issue that has led to Kupet Secretary General Zakaria Nyumboi to support the union by saying the measures are meant to save lives.
If the government are not able to protect our teachers, our children in those schools, then we have no option but to withdraw them. We tell them that you boycott, don't go to those places, because their lives are more important than the insecurity they are subjected to.
At the same time, they called for immediate payment of over 30,000 JSS teachers who since their employment have not received pay, with only 5,000 of them receiving pay.
We are asking Teacher Service Commission, can you fast track your processes and ensure that these teachers are paid with immediate effect? They are suffering. Many of them are suffering. They are traveling long distances to villages, to far-flung villages, even to schools that they never went to for their teaching practice. They have never been in that setting.
Baringo North Member of Parliament Joseph Makilap said insecurity in Baringo North worsens day by day as bandits have encroached areas of Kagir, Chemoy, Chepkesin and Kosile, where 6 schools in those regions have been closed and 5 people killed in the region under the past 1 month.
We have a serious challenge of insecurity. We've closed quite a number of schools, including the secondary school. We have closed Kakir, we have closed Naratuko, we have closed Chemoy, we have closed Chepkesin. We have closed a number of primary and secondary schools in the farmland areas because of insecurity.
Makilap also called on all school heads holding Form 4 certificates to unconditionally release the documents, since many learners cannot proceed with their education even to tertiary institutions owing to lack of documents.
Cows have been stolen, goats have been stolen, parents have been killed. So what do we expect them to get money from?
Chichi Josephine, TV47.
Now, the body of a student from Ikoro Primary School was found inside a well days after she was reported missing in Tinga Village, Kitutu Masaba constituency. According to the school's head teacher, Abdullah Ondieki, the student was reported missing on the 29th of March after leaving school in the evening. Saina Mohammed with more.
A somber mood engulfed Tinga village in Kitutu Masaba constituency after the body of a student from Ikoro Primary School was found inside a well belonging to her grandmother.
Tulipata habari kwamba kuna mtu amepatikana kwa kisima ya mji wa hii boma ya Siriba, ndio tukafuruliza tukakuja huko na tumepata hakika kuna mtoto alikuwa ndani.
According to her grandmother, the last time she saw Mary was on the 29th of March after she sent her to the neighbor's house to collect her debt.
Mwanafunzi walienda sports on Wednesday, alafu akirudi nyanya yake akamtuma kuchukua deni yake. Alikuwa nyumbani, kwa hivyo akurudi tangu siku hiyo. Siku inayofuata akakosa kuja shuleni, tukatuma mwanafunzi mmoja amtafute. Sasa wazazi wakakuja wakaripoti kwamba walimtuma hajarudi na hajapatikana.
Her body was found days later after someone fetching water spotted something floating inside the well.
Sheria ikaweza kutumika wa serikali tusaidie, ikaweza kufanya uchunguzi ikiwa huyu mtoto alianguka peke yake kwa kisima, ikiwa aliwawa akarushwa huko, na tukaweza kupata majibu sahihi ambayo yalifanya huyo mtoto akauawa.
The body of the deceased was taken to Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital mortuary as the police investigate the death further. Zainab Mohammed, TV47.
Now, President William Ruto has asked African nations to make concerted efforts to win the war on negative effects of climate change. He said the continent is disproportionately affected by its adverse impact, as our reporter Ronnie Regan details.
Honorable Justice Martha Koome, Lady Justice Philomena Mwilu.
President William Ruto has noted that institutional reconfigurations and economic resets emanating from efforts to tackle negative effects of climate change will install Africa as the world's green economic superpower.
It is important for Africa to undertake concerted action to win the war on climate change because it is disproportionately affected by its adverse impacts, and also because necessary global responses to climate change are going to institute structural change.
According to the president, Africa's entry into a new era of peace and prosperity makes the impending climate catastrophe particularly heartbreaking for the continent.
The institutional configurations and economic resets emanating from this structural change will install Africa not only as a continent of the future, but as the world's green economic superpower.
During the meeting, he conveyed that although Africa is committed to addressing poverty and inequality, choosing the path of population is not an option.
In addition to drought, African populations are experiencing floods, heat waves, an outbreak of climate change-related diseases. African livelihood, security and development is in danger and will remain at stake unless we collectively wage aggressive combat to reverse the situation through policies and other institutional action to implement mitigation, enhance adaptation, and build resilience.
The president also lauded the judiciary for taking a frontline position in confronting the climate change.
The looming climate disaster is particularly tragic for Africa, which is entering a new, promising era of peace and prosperity as the continent of the future. Many vital indicators affirm that indeed Africa is rising, powered by its youthful population, energy, resources, and hope.
Africa has been facing severe climate change for some time now, resulting in loss of human and animal lives as well as damage to ecosystems.
Future global sustainability will depend on a robust engagement with Africa in many fundamental ways. The world knows this, and African institutions and stakeholders must be ready for this engagement. And that is why this symposium is very important.
He was speaking today during the 3rd Regional Symposium on Greening Judiciaries in Africa at the Safari Park Hotel here in Nairobi. Ronnie Reagan, TV 47.
Countries demonstrated leadership.
All right, it's at this point that now we shift gears to the conversation. We have two Aishimiwas on set already. One of them should be joining us shortly. Also, it's a chilly morning in Nairobi, and so you'd expect a bit of, snarl up. But all the same, the show must continue. And what's important is that we discuss matters that are of great importance to us. One of the figures that we have on set this morning is one of the few people who graced the occasion of the moment when Baba was addressing the nation. It was quite a short address, but quite instrumental as to where we are, where we intend to go as a people. And so as we get into this conversation, we certainly want to feel whether theirs equally is a general feel that we are headed towards a positive trajectory, and for that very matter, whether indeed they believe that there's going to be something out of this for purposes of making sure that we have posterity and for the common mwananchi. And so as we get into this conversation, we ask that you part and parcel of it. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47KE. I'll be sampling some of your comments as we continue with the broadcast. I think Sunday, Mheshimiwa Oyolo will be the one who sits on this very seat that is here. But before then, allow us to introduce, that is Patience Nyange, Mheshimiwa as well, who's the Executive Director of Amwik, part and parcel of us as the women who are in media. It's a pleasure to have you. And I think I have to behave so much so because then my boss is here. So I really hope I manage to do this proper. Karibu sana, Patience.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's good to have you. The last time you were here, we were on the process of the election, but here we are, and we thank God.
Thank you.
It's
thank
an honor
you for inviting
to have you.
me.
Karibu sana. And then Mheshimiwa, Honorable Member of County Assembly Kileleshwa Ward in Nairobi, Honorable Robert Alai as well is here.
Asante sana.
Team Baba 100%.
Thank you. No, Team Baba.
Not Team Baba, Team Kenya.
Team Baba.
Team Baba.
Yeah, Baba is Kenya.
Baba and Kenya is
and
Baba.
Kenya is Baba.
From what we see.
Yes,
and you think something is going to come out of this for
we
posterity?
Hope so. We hope so because
yeah.
we don't. It's not. When worse comes to us, we go back to the street, but we hope that we will not have to go back to the streets.
And we all cross fingers for that.
Yeah,
did you envision that it would get to this level?
No, we knew it was going to get to this level because we believe that the president is not such an outrageous guy. He is not very unreasonable, though he's surrounded by some people who are trying to look very unreasonable. I think they're trying to cut their teeth in politics by doing that. It's not wise, but we hope that everything is going to be fine.
Right, and I mean, we all have been affected directly, and perhaps the two of you have been at the heart of this process. And Patience here as an individual who speaks on behalf of the media and the target. Does it feel like after that assurance by the president, we can sit pretty and say that we're okay as the members of the Fourth Estate?
Well, we want to believe his words, and we want to believe that he speaks, and when he speaks, then all of us listen.
Yeah.
And so him being the commander-in-chief, we want to believe that everybody listens, including the police forces, and of course even the demonstrators. The fourth estate people have said we need to be dignified. The work that we do is really protected or enshrined within the Constitution of Kenya, and therefore we have a duty to inform the public. And as we do so, then we need to also to work in a conducive environment that allows media people to feel safe and secure in everything that they do. We were headed in a wrong direction, I will say, when we started attacking journalists. You know, people lost their property. We had journalists attacked physically. We also had a lot of, I mean, we could see a lot of them explaining how they are going through harassment. Others had their property vandalized, equipment, including the vehicles. So we were headed in the wrong direction, and we were all worried. And on Saturday, I know we convened at Manzoni from various, the Kenya media sector working group, which is comprised by of various associations. And we sat down to discuss and deliberate how else do we move from here. And when we met and came out with demands and deliberations that were out of, the need to protect journalists in Kenya, even during this kind of demonstrations and during this civil unrest. So, well, we got a response almost immediately, and we are grateful that, well, we believe him. And as we believe him, we're also sending a question to journalists, work within, protected areas.
All right. And Senior, you are a journalist in your own right, and I mean, that much we all understand. Do you still feel like there's that attack that needs to be addressed? That is especially as to muzzling the media.
My worry is that the president never talked about, taking any action on people who attack journalists. Because whether they were journalists who work in the office of the former prime minister, or journalists who are working on behalf, representing the various media houses in this country, they should not be attacked because they are not active players. If I employ a journalist or a former journalist, to come and work in my office, why, if you have an issue with me, why should you attack?
This very
Yes. So it doesn't matter as long as he was a journalist. I saw, I think the biggest heroes in this were the security officers of Raila Odinga. Because even when his personal life was threatened, nobody drew a gun. Nobody drew a gun. Imagine anybody from that group drew a gun or attacked the police officers. This would have been the tipping point. But as long as they remained restrained, some of them just moved back and say that these are security officers. The moment we get out our guns, then this country can go to the worst. It can degenerate into some of the most, level which we cannot recover. And I was very happy to see that the president realized, just seeing that the president withdrew from all the weekend activities, and the former prime minister also withdrew. And then they appeared, and the people around them, us appeared and came to look like we have come from our weekend rendezvous without much preparation, and we have just been called to press conferences. I think it was very interesting to realize that the two gentlemen decided to speak and be the bigger men and say that we have to not let the country degenerate into what.
Is it important that Kenyans know, what really played out, whether there was a conversation, whether they met? And you've seen these photos that are making rounds that are misplaced. The photos for I don't know how many years
back. 2020, people are trying to make, people are trying to say, oh, Baba received. Baba was very categorical. We are not going for a handshake. We are not interested in that. We are not interested in a handshake.
But what can you label this?
These are, I think the president also realized that, the biggest thing, of all the things we are demanding, the biggest one of IBC. Because this country never goes to the dog with the hope that every 5 years we are going for an election. So we'll be able to choose somebody, who is going to represent our interest or who is going to, articulate our vision. But when you deny people that chance, people will take up arms. And this is what the president realized, that he's going to deny us that chance. The thing that has been insulating us from violence. And Kenya might have gone to the dogs. It is a very, people saw it as a very minor thing, IBC. You cannot reconstitute IBC alone. And if the president went fully, and I said that he doesn't know what he's playing with. We can argue about the food prices. We can argue about all these other things, Jerera here and there. But the moment you touched IBC. Even Moi, with 24 years reign and power, that is what he said, and he said that you have to sit down and do IPPG. Even Kibaki said, let's constitute ECK, and we did IEC. Even President Uhuru said, no, if you want, then Chagweni, you remember, it is Raila who suggested Chebukati, you know. So you know, this is a place where most of the presidents don't play.
Yeah, and I mean, it's at the heart of every process in the country, and we all agree with what PLO says, that politics is the bloodline of every activity in the country. Patience, one would want to say that perhaps the burning issue at this point then is actually that matter of the IEBC that the president speaks to, you know, first, and you know, gives its precedence over these other two. But the people of Kenya then would feel like this is not the priority. The people of Kenya will tell you that the reason we joined Azimio team in the streets is not for the IEBC per se. It is largely because of the high cost of living. They kind of feel should changed, that the matter that is being given precedence is this one of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And they can't help but imagine or think that this is largely about the politician.
Well, a lot of the time I've also seen comments, where is this headed? And what is the end game in this? Is it really about us, or is it about the politicians? And that's where you see for the last, I think, a day or so, or since the announcement that there's going to be, I mean, no more demonstrations on Monday. Then you've seen the circulation of photos with the half bread, and everyone is looking at it and saying, okay, so is this the time now we're talking about Nusu Mkate again? And I think Kenyans, you have seen the numbers that went out to demonstrate. They were really huge numbers. But again, from the word go, and I remember having this conversation with in a different media house, and said, I think a number of us had also missed the messaging. What was the messaging? Why are we out? Why are we demonstrating? Well, others will get it. It was about the high cost of living. Well, others really demanded to fungue sava, and I was like, okay, what is the issue at this point? You know? And then others were like, no, IBC. And others were like, you know, no, tutaka babo katika serikali. So while I think for me the right messaging from the word go, and if Kenyans join, then most of them join for the sake of saying we are experiencing high cost of living. And we want a negotiation. And in particular, people wanted a lower cost of unga, which is really for us is a subsistence food. And almost every day in every household there is, we partake ugali in a way. And so the conversation around that Mama Mboga also needed. You know, everyone is, and that I think ugali is what unites us as a country. And that's a language that everyone else understands. But well, you hear that as a conversation, and then you also hear the conversation about IEBC, and then you also hear about the conversation ya kufungua server. So there was, from the beginning for me, I felt like we really had almost too many issues, and well, everybody else was there. So at the end of it all, what is it? And for the IEBC at the same time, I know I appeared before this the select panel, selection panel of IEBC, and I know a number of people have been appearing there, and so the conversation has been, let's try and see that we bring in inclusive IEBC. What is the kind of IEBC we want? That conversation has been happening, and so we understand that the constitution of the IEBC panel has been in contention, and therefore if this is part of the conversation, and that is also something that unites us, because the commissioners and the commissioner itself will break or make Kenya in the next years to come. And so that is a conversation that we all need to get to a place that we feel it's inclusive. If there are issues on that. Because I think the greatest letdown or setback for this country has always been after every election, there's always issues about IEBC, and then it becomes personalities again. And then after, it's really not what, you know, how many votes did we get or did we not get? It's always about the credibility of IEBC. Was this fair? Was this election fair, credible? And so, well, I think for me, Kenyans have their own cry.
And I mean, Honorable Alai, how do you get to convince the common wananchi, you member of county assembly, sorry, your member of ward, your ward member, they know this was largely about the common wananchi, just triggered by us, especially when we can now evidently see that it's the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And we all understand that it's a very important process for us to get the right characters, the right commissioners, because largely that is what guarantees us the future. But how do you get them to understand that it's fine beyond the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the cost of living is at the heart of this. That, you know, I don't know whether opening of the server is at the heart of the interest of every other Kenyan.
Opening this of the server is a literal thing, but people should not take it so. It is basically we need to audit the process of the election, which I think is not a very unreasonable demand. Because you are saying that after every process, even you guys, you run a company, after every process, you say, let's audit our actions.
But how reasonable, I mean, having gone through the process that we all went through, for the very first time, you can access the server, the numbers as they trickle in, even though, in my own opinion, it was the most confusing moments for a majority of us, including journalists, because you do not know what to report on. The numbers, in a huge way, differed based on how you were calculating, where you begin to calculate.
You know, the moment we denied Kenyans the chance to have real-time audit is when we denied the media houses to have their own real-time tally. So I believe that the fact that we can access the results does not mean that the results are credible. Because you know what is happening? The contention is on the national tallying system, at the national tallying center, which is at Bomas. You see, we didn't have the constituency. The problem with the constituency, there are the only three: the constituency, the county, and the national. The constituency handles the MP, the women reps. The women rep is at the county, and the county handles the governor and the women rep and the senator. So the MP and the MCA is at the constituency, and the president is at the national tallying. At the national tallying center, they're saying that all these things, when they're being sent to the national tallying center, something happens here between. Can we audit that process? That's the opening of the server. Otherwise, this other physical server, we cannot even trust the contents now, because maybe they have been interfered with. The other thing we have to realize that the IEBC, at the heart of our democracy, it is the core, because it's the one who is deciding who is going to take the mantle to lead this country for the next 5 years. And the moment we play with that process, you see, we were fearing, when you were demanding that IBC reconstituting should involve everybody, we were fearing a part where one person who is the president, who has all the instruments of power, can decide who becomes the MCA in your area. The MP, the women rep, the senator, and all. You heard in 2017 people crying about vifaranga vya computer. There are people who could not even go. You remember Wajali?
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Wajali could not even go and defend his seat. And he's one of the people who have been mentioned as vifaranga vya computer. Because there's no way that ODM can win all the seats, all the votes in the county. Then somebody emerges here with the Jubilee. You see, he didn't even have the guts to go and defend the seat. But you know, that one has passed. So the only thing is that people need to know that at the core of the price of foods, for us to determine that, let's have a clear process of elections. So that, you know, as politicians, we only sell two things. We sell hope and we sell fear. So this hope that we will make your life better is very important. It's more than fear. The other thing is that utatisha your opponents to not come and contest with you. But the hope is for Wananchi that I have better vision. I have a better way of doing things. I have better ways of articulating your vision at the assemblies. I have better ways of presenting your budget and ensuring that you have a better life in wherever you are. So I think IBC is at the core of everything. When we ignore IBC and then we say that we only fight for the price of food, price of fuel, and price of everything, then we are going to miss the point, and you are going to be crying all through, not realizing that for us to have better prices, let's have a better political election process.
All right. So, and of course, we started off by talking about the media, which I'd love for us to expound further, but that is towards the last minute. But I'm trying to imagine the conversation between these ladies and gentlemen, closed door, speaking of a partisan approach, some of them who have appeared to be hardliners on this question. And you really want to understand just how genuine the conversation could have been between these individuals as pertaining to these matters. Patience.
Well, I wanted to pick from a column that I was reading this morning as it's coming here, a column by Masharia Gaido in Nation.
Yeah.
And it clearly says solutions to opposition protests cannot be found in Parliament. Hence the need for dialogue at another forum involving teams from both the sides, preferably overseen by mutual acceptable mediators. And beyond the two political formations, it will also be necessary to include participation of a wide array of interest groups that best represent Kenyan interests. This is what will act as a guarantee that the needs of the people, rather than narrow pacts around power sharing, are priority. I see
Should be this one, right?
Yes, that's a very interesting article that I read, and I was like, well, I like the way he's approached it.
Yeah.
From the, I mean, he talks about all the three concerns, as we're saying. We have the concerns of the common mwananchi, which is really about the cost of living, and then we have what seems like the only agreement that Ruto has agreed to. Let's talk about the composition of the IBC panel. And then, well, so who is seated here? Who is making these decisions? And as you see from the photo that you're showing initially, we have, politicians seated there. Are they representative enough for, the common mwananchi? That's the question we're all asking ourselves. The President Ruto deserves, just by merely agreeing to engage, the two leaders have steered Kenya from the likely descent into a calamitous path. Everybody can have a sigh of relief in Mr. Odinga calling off the increasing violent protests, finding actual action on President Ruto's offer of a bipartisan approach in Parliament to his demands in a more inclusive approach to filing of vacancies in the IEBC, commission, or rather the panel. And as we said, yes, the conversation all the time when it comes to, was this election credible or not credible, it goes back to the commission. So everyone else wants to see that this time round, from the formation of the IEBC, we get it right. And everyone else was shocked, at the height of what we were looking at was going to be like another post-election violence. We have 4 commissioners saying we don't agree, or we are not. We record a dissenting opinion on these results. So I think for me it's a very dangerous path that we were in as a country at that time. And if this time round we have to get it right, then let's get it right from where we are.
And I mean, that then would be the question, Robert, just how do we get it right in a scenario where we always appear as though we are getting short-term remedies, because then we realize that, Monday has not been so good, Thursday has not been so good, another Monday has not been so good. We can't afford to go through another Monday like that, and so we say it's fine. Let's soften the stance and tone mzee. Because then it always appears as though it's about Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Then eventually, 5 years after, we are almost in the same circle. And maybe that's the reason why they keep blaming him, because Moi tried to tone him, Kibaki tried to tone him, Uhuru tried to tone him, it is now Ruto trying to tone him. And then we ask ourselves, why don't we always, get this to the level of the extreme and to the final bit where then we get a long-term solution that guarantees us?
I think Kenyans need to appreciate the fact that Raila was born a Kenyan. He's been a Kenyan. He's offered a lot of solutions. If you check around our neighborhoods, our neighbors here, you'll see the kind of countries we have. You'll see even the process, because we are saying the biggest advisor of our current president is President Museveni. He see what he's doing to his opposition there. These 2 weeks have been the loneliest I've ever experienced in my life. I've been part of chanting for some of these reforms since 2010. And I can tell you these 2 weeks, I've never experienced anything like this, where the voice of the civil society was missing. Even when you saw the Editors Guild, the AMWIC get into this conversation, they're saying at least they're joining in. The diplomatic community totally quiet, everybody quiet. Then you remain with only Kenya Kwanza, and then you say, is nobody else existing in this country? Because I've known that we have always been very actively participating in these things. But suddenly we said, ahead. Even the US ambassador in that letter he sent to the American Chamber of Commerce, you see that she's acknowledging basically how ahead we are. But these things just didn't come. No government give you your rights on silver platter. In fact, if you give the government space, they'll always take something away from you. They'll charge you more taxes. They'll always take some of the rights away from you. You saw somebody thinking about closing the media. You saw the deputy president, even if they didn't mean to. You know, words have a meaning and words inspire because you have supporters. If tomorrow a supporter sees TV47 journalist, they will try to lynch them because the deputy president was telling them that is the right thing to do. That hawa wanakuanga watu wazimio.
Well, God forbid it does not get to that point. And maybe that's the reason why I asked. When you look at this picture, what do you say, and how much confidence do you have as Team Azimio?
No, what I think is that the president surprised everybody. So he had to call his troops to State House to explain to him, to them, because
And so tell them, let's not ask why.
Yeah, because in Malava, the deputy president was very furious.
And it's not even a week after. It's not even days after.
It's not even days after.
Why that sudden change of tone?
The president told them that he's in charge. He's in charge, and
you think he did?
Yeah, I think he told them he's in charge, and he knows what he wants for this country. So because also they don't have much options. They don't have much options with the president.
Yeah.
The president, there's always option to choose another majority leader, and if you are the deputy president, you can be there lame duck. He cannot sack you, but basically you can be lame duck for a very long time. So I think also they realize that if the president is seeing a bigger vision on this, then let's follow his path. Because there's no way 1 or 2 days ago, the president was very tactical, I think, when he sent his deputy to Malava, and he didn't go to one of the events of the key insider in his presidency. He didn't attend even a church service on Sunday, despite being one of the biggest churchgoers in this country.
Yeah.
I think basically was bringing that picture. He was bringing his troops and telling them that, guys, look here. We agreed. We had a call, or we sat down and we agreed on ABCD. Can you guys just support me on this and let's move forward.
And Patience, this is the same president who was once deputy, and Right Honorable Raila Odinga was brought on board, perhaps without his knowledge or with his knowledge, but not his consent. And for close to 5 years or 3 or thereabout, he's been talking about how that was the worst mistake that we did. He gets to power and he's categorical that this is not the direction that we go. And even when you listen to his address the other time, we are not going to take a route that is unconstitutional in relation to addressing to this, perhaps alluding to the fact that, it is not the handshake, it is not what you think, it is probably a different conversation. And then here we are, and he is speaking to those ones that are his diehards and his loyals, those ones that have also castigated that move. How do we trust him to be genuine in this very process? And I am asking this because we will always ask, left, right, and center, just who is fooling who? Is it the common mwananchi who's being fooled? Is it Raila Odinga who's being fooled? Is it the president who's fooling himself? Just who is fooling whom? Or can we just be positive for a second?
Well, and I think that's, you raise a very important question, because as it is, we remember during the handshake, it sounds like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people said, even the people within the opposition said, we were left, we didn't know what transpired. All we saw were photos. And of course, the president, Uhuru Kenyatta at that time.
Yeah.
It was a conversation that was a gentleman's conversation, I will say. But of course, that left out the deputy president then, who is our president now, Ruto. And he understands probably what he went through during that time. And now he's completely very sure. He says, we can discuss everything else, but you're not discussing a handshake. That's not part of the conversation that we're bringing to the table. And well, I respect his opinion, and I want to believe that also the formation of his government is a government that is formed by many other people.
Yeah.
And of course, we've talked about these headliners that are there, and really defending the stand that we will not have a handshake this time round. There would be reasons for that. At the same time, also, we know what happened when we didn't have an opposition. So we had a country where there's no opposition, and no one is keeping the government in check.
Yeah.
Now we appreciate that there's an opposition, and the opposition is, we hope that it's representing us, and it's genuinely representing the interests of common mwananchi. And that's why when you've rallied people to go for demonstrations, people have come out in large numbers. And so everyone was waiting for Monday, and you could hear the conversation everywhere. I was in a public forum on Saturday, and I had people say, Monday sisi tumejihami kabisa because Baba
He's the mother of them all.
He's the mother of them all, you know? So you can imagine his one statement makes a whole difference.
Yeah.
And therefore, this time round, it cannot be about him. It can only be about the people of Kenya. And that's what we're really looking for. We're saying every conversation has to look at the common mwananchi. Go down to the common mwananchi and represent his interests, her interests. So in every conversation that we have, it has to be at the heart of the mwananchi wa Kenya. Anasema nini, anataka nini. And so we're hoping that this one is not a conversation we're having, you know, at a very exclusive hotel, and we're saying, so this is your share, this is my share, let's go out now. No.
And you know, Robert Alai is big on lines. Tani Macharia says, I told you a people's revolution can never be started by a billionaire. We take a short break and then we come and pack that statement.
Wakati mwingine kama weekend, mimi najiachilia.
Hata ukumbuki history. Nikifika watu wangu wakinipokea na kupokeleka.
Umeset the mood.
Nimeset the mood. Naweza kupokeleka. Nikitumai kwamba mzima popote pale ulipo nikikukaribisha katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi. Jina langu Elizabeth Mutuku, na katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi tunakupa nafasi kutangamana nao kila siku ya Alhamisi kuanzia saa 1:30 kuendelea siku nyingine. Tutapatana papa hapa umjue kiongozi mwingine.
Jiunge nasi toka hapa hadi ufuoni mwa bahari. Meli yetu itakapotua nanga kwa uhondo ribo ya riwaya hii mwisho wa kosa. Monica.
It's early morning in Maralal. Start your morning informed, educated, entertained, and above all, know your country. From the beautiful plains of Samburu County to the skyscrapers of Nairobi, Morning Cafe certainly got you covered. Indeed, a beautiful place to watch and certainly a moment of understanding and knowing your country. Indeed, to the remotest parts of every county. Join me, Linda Alela, every weekday from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
The diversity of Kenya's wildlife has garnered international fame.
This is pellets that we give to the tourists, the giraffes. We ration because we don't want the giraffes to eat too much of this. We want them to have more of the natural browse.
We may not always get the opportunity to go out to see the wildlife, but you will never miss the opportunity to see it from the comfort of your couch.
This is home to animals that have been found out there either injured, abandoned, or confiscated from people who are holding them illegally.
Only on TV47 Wildlife, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m.
The events of the day, there's so much playing out in the country and beyond, but as they would always say, it's good to articulate what's playing out at home before you think of what's on the other side. In as much as when the neighbor coughs, we all get or we all catch that cold. So here we are, that a revolution of the people cannot be started by a billionaire.
Yeah.
And people will tell you, Baba is not hungry in as much as the high cost of living.
No, he's not hungry. And that's what Kenyans need to appreciate.
Understand?
You know, he's almost getting into his 80s.
Yes.
And he's still getting involved. If Baba was your typical billionaire, what would happen? He would go, rest, he has enough money.
Enjoy his money.
He was using a lot of money. Let me tell you that in that campaign, Baba was paying for every helicopter flight, for every vehicle refueling for that team.
So finally we get to know who's funding them, because we've been asking this question for the longest
himself.
of time.
He is himself personally. Even for us, sometimes as politicians, we're trying, you know, because you make contributions, the monthly contributions. Then you say that, you know, this thing is going to be a long, short.
Process,
I don't want you guys to drain financially. He's going to do this personally.
Okay.
Because what we are fighting, even sometimes you guys are not seeing the vision, but it tells you, guys, are you seeing what is happening with IBC? If I leave Kenya at this stage, if somebody, one person is going to determine who is going to sit on IBC, it is going to be the most dangerous thing. In fact, I think after last elections, when the president was declared and he was sworn in, Baba said he's taking a back seat. When the first changes in IBC started happening,
Yeah.
he called and he said, I think there's something wrong with this country.
Your usual politician would not do that, would have gotten to a point where you say, enough is enough. First of all, you don't even appreciate me. There's not a time you have given me the presidency. I have tried how many times. I have enough money to sustain me and my family. Why should I continue to do this if it is not about personal interest?
But you know, even these people have been they have been talking about President Uhuru sending emissaries. But they have been sending more emissaries to Raila than anybody else have experienced.
Is it?
Yeah, but even the kind of offers they have made to that for the last 1 week. We have said, no, I'm not interested in money, I'm not interested in all these properties of an ambassador of climate change, where he's not interested in it. He's interested on a process where he lives, exists. He has not even talked about him being part of the political process in 2027. He has said he wants to leave the country at a stage where the institutions matter. And if IBC will be able to chart its own course and not under the control of the president, these are the things Kenyans can sort. These are the corruption, the cost of living, you can sort as long as you can be able to sit here and say that, let's decide, who are we electing today? Are we removing the current governor or we are letting him continue? Are we removing the current MCA or we're letting him continue? If you can decide that, and not that somebody sitting in State House with an iPad and saying that, weka huyu mtu hapa, weka huyu hapa, weka huyu hapa.
Is it only me who's hearing a lie confirm that this whole matter will largely be about the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, which appears visible to be addressed? The high cost of living, perhaps sometimes I sort of felt like, they were overambitious in even trying to push the government to levels of saying, we're going to lower this prices and everything, because we all understand the processes that we have to go through for us to get food on the table that could be somehow long-term. Is it only me who hears a lie say that this is largely about the IBC? Once that is sorted, we will overlook this conversation of opening the server. We will try and, entice the common mwananchi to a space where they will know that, well, eventually we're going to address the high cost of living, but not as soon as you would all anticipate for it to be patience.
Well, interesting. I think I understand where this is headed. When I'm looking at myself as a common mwananchi and saying, and also looking at myself from where we will be as politicians. Politicians make promises. But sometimes there's what we call in Kenya reality kwa ground. And reality kwa ground mara nyingi ni tofauti. So there are always the promise of, we'll lower the cost of living when you get into government. And as it is now, everyone is complaining about the high cost of living. When you think about the fuel and there's an increase to say, the power is going to go up, fuel is going to go up, every new day comes with a new addition, taxes. And people are wondering, where are the promises? This is what we voted for. And we say, you're as good as your word, you're as good as the promise that you make to people. So 6 million people believed in all the promises that were made by Kenya Kwanza. And for me, while I still think it's too early to judge the government, because they're still forming the government. It's just recently, less than 2 weeks now, we had the last swearing in of the chief administrative secretaries. And before that, it didn't take so long. We also had the principal secretaries in place.
Yeah.
And before that, then of course we had the cabinet secretaries. All this need to work together. So for me, I think the present government is still at the place of formation of the government, and to try and see that it's working based on the people now who are working in the various places. So now narrowing everything down to become an IBC, issue, for me is shortchanging people. It will be, for me, part of the petitions that we'll be making before, Kenyans, or to say there's much more, but yes, on top of everything, if you were to give them percentages, we'll easily say 50% of this conversion tax becomes the IBC issue.
Yeah.
But then, for me, if we were going to talk about Kenyans, then I would imagine that the high cost of living will be the biggest conversation or the main conversation.
And true to it, you really want to have these Kenyans alive in 2027 at least. And while you might think that this high cost of living conversation is not a big deal, it is, because we've seen people losing their lives because of hunger and all that. So how do you work on an IBC and fix the electoral process then? And then you end up to, at a space where you don't have the Kenyans to go out there and vote.
The cost of living is high because of our reason. It is the symptom of our problem. It's not the problem. It is basically by the choice you make. Then you factor in corruption. When I had very much hopes when I saw the president trying to reconstitute the KRA and rejig it and make it work for Kenyans. But when I saw him maintain the VAT where it is, then he changed the pricing tariff structure of Kenya Power and basically hidden all these charges which people have been complaining about without reducing any of them. Despite his assurances that cost of power will not go up, it went up on 1st of April. The problem of cost of living is a symptom. It is not the main problem here. It is because we have factored corruption into our budget system. If we are not properly, somebody told our Kenyan leaders that you have to tax people into wealth. You'll never tax people and grow the wealth of this country. The best way is to look for new opportunities, open up new areas, try to innovatively deal with our problems. Don't make empowerment in the counties and sub-counties all about borders and mamambogas doing the small kiosk things. Restructure it, organize our cities, make the traffic look smart. If we employ more traffic marshals and remove the policemen from the traffic systems, make the traffic work better, there are very many ways, but it happens at the choice of leaders. If the leaders we have get into office, then receive kickbacks from corporates, then go and move from buying suits of 10,000 shillings, 20,000 shillings to 1 million, 2 million. The cost of living, it is the symptom of a bigger issue. It is not the main issue. So we need to address the main issue, which is that the leadership of this country needs to properly look. I wonder, when you hear the president walking around the country, then going to build some concrete slum in Homa Bay, what is he thinking? This affordable housing thing, I believe people need affordable housing, but not everybody in this country needs to own a home. You don't need to own.
But given a choice, we would all need to. It's just that.
No, we need to have a home, but you don't need everybody to be a landlord. Who will be the tenant?
No, that's a question.
Who will be the tenant? What we need in these cities is that the government need to properly invest in housing so that the housing rates are affordable. That's why you see it's very good housing estates owned by now the counties are disappearing. Somebody sold them off to individuals. When the government was in the public transport system, the cost of transport was cheaper. And the cartels in the industry would not decide when people will go to work or not, or close the roads down. When the government exited, you see the kind of chaos you have. The CBD now, some vehicles cutting corners, moving from. We need to organize. We need to look for innovative ways of dealing with our problems. I don't think that we need to talk about the cost of living, the root cause. The cost of living is the problem. But what is the root cause of that? It's because the leaders have a totally different vision of this country. Let's get, you and I who have not been in this political space for so long, let's get into it. Let's talk about it, whether directly as elected leaders or indirectly as people participating in such shows and telling them what they need to do.
Precious, I know you want to respond, but allow us to acknowledge the presence of Honorable Sunday Oyolo, who is with us this morning, a politician as well as Western Kenya Kwanza coordinator. It's a pleasure to have you, Senior. Apologies. Let's blame it on the weather. Let's blame it on the weather.
Everything else. I'm glad to be here.
It's an honor to have you this morning. Precious, before we loop in.
Yes, really, I wanted to respond to say, Mwananchi, everything else we're having here is a very elastic conversation. All they want to see is, has my unga price gone down? So you can have all the conversation, we can think about everything else that is happening, but at the end of it all is, I want to see my life becoming more affordable. I want to see that I can thrive. Everyone else is surviving, but we're looking at Kenyans surviving because we have good fortunes. When you think about many countries within the continent in Africa, Kenya is at a very good place. So then that needs to really reflect in the way we live, in the way, you know, I mean, the Mama Mboga lives her life. So we want to make it easier for her. And demonstrations, for example, you know, daily demonstrations, not the best way to make it easier for her. People lose lives, people lose their daily bread, people lose hope. And every government needs to inspire hope. So we're looking at a government that, you know, have the conversations at that level that you want to have the conversation. But Lord, bring down the cost of my life or the cost of living. Make it affordable for me and my children to access food, to go to school, to access everything that I'll call basic need for decent living.
Honorable Sunday, thank you so much once again for creating time. And you find us at a point where we are discussing, you know, the address by the President and the Right Honorable on Sunday and what this has culminated to. And we find ourselves in a space where there's an introduction of the bipartisan approach to this matter. And they say talks are set and the ball is rolling in relation to this. The likes of Macharia Gaido, as Patience would take us to read his article, says it would be good to expand this space of dialogue, you know, to incorporate more stakeholders, because this is beyond the two gentlemen. But at the level of Parliament, just how bipartisan in a Parliament where we have evidently seen them, you know, taking sides, political positions, tough political positions for that very matter. A Parliament that we have a majority and a minority. A Parliament that, you know, is likely about numbers as opposed to, you know, just coming out there and echoing new matters. Just how does this play out?
Thank you for having me here, Linda. What we are looking at is a situation it's not new. We've had this situation before. We've had the IPPG in 1997. We had the Kiraitu, Orengo, and later before. We have had all this. The only common denominator in all this has been Raila Odinga.
Honorable Odinga.
And that's it.
There's
nothing new. This is the common denominator. He didn't like it during 1997. It was redone. He didn't like it 2013. It was redone for him. He didn't like it in 2017. It was redone for him. It's just like that. And he demands for reforms at every step. You heard what the president said. It's not anything new. We've always had this. We've done it before in Parliament. So it is just to massage his ego. But again, our president told him before last election, he told him, hata ukiwa na ndugu yako Buru as chairman of IBC, we will still beat you. So it is not about who will be there, who will discuss the bipartisan, or whatever will happen. The process has already been in Parliament. It went through the Parliament, through the legislation, through a very good arrangement. Both houses looked at it, and the law was made. There is also a ruling of the court on this that the Parliament was trying to implement. So that it can never be that most of the panel of selection panel must come from Parliament. That was the argument of the court. That it should not take the monopoly. We should also have the members of the political parties coming, the employer, the PSC coming, and many others, so that they share the position. But you see, there is an ego of one man. The problem here is one person. And even now, tumemwambia, even if it's Oburu that he wants to make chairperson, kuja. That's why, by the way, that's what the president was actually saying. When he was saying, leave alone the issues of food, of cost of food, and what have you. In fact, even Robert is agreeing that food is just one of them. And that's why even in the address where Robert Alai was at the Capitol Hill, the Prime Minister forgot even to talk about the high cost of living. It had to come out of a question.
But as well, the president had to be, asked a question in relation to the same for him to articulate it.
You know why? Because it was not the key issue for him. Out of the issues that were raised, he looked out and together the meeting, and I heard before, when on my way here, I heard Robert saying that he decided to remain behind while people are going to Malava so that there has not been a single call from my president to Raila.
Okay.
There has not been a single meeting with between my president.
No emissaries have been
sent. Nobody.
So that is
there
the statement.
Emissaries could be. There
but
could be.
Not about money.
But not personally.
And in fact, I wanted to ask that question in relation to how then we can trust individuals that then are sending money to tone someone down. These are the very same individuals that we have bestowed the country on their hands, and we ask ourselves, just how safe are we anyway?
You know, this process was not even Raila's. Why should you bring about a conflict after 6 months after election has been declared?
So this process was about...
It was the owner of the dog had to stop it from back.
But who is this? Are we going back? And perhaps this is the biggest fear for the people of Kenya, and even the fear that the Azimio team will tell you they have.
Fact,
you have seen a tweet by sorry?
Before you go to a lie, another lie that I heard from a lie, another lie from a lie,
okay.
that Raila about funding. We have worked, all of us. We started a lot of work with Robert Alailong.
You know that Raila cannot...
We know Raila doesn't pay for a bill.
Is it?
And Raila does not sponsor his election.
So there is no way he has funded
this. There is no way Raila would have done all this.
But you are not in this team this time around. He is in. He's in the inner sanctums of the Azimio.
This is his own man. Leave him alone.
You think he's lying to us?
Raila, there is a man who was paying for these bills.
Who is this man? You seem to know them so well.
We know them. We know. We have intelligence. We know who was paying for it, and we know who it was benefiting, because of the fear that now taxes were going to be demanded of some people, because of the fear that some companies were going to close shop, because of the business they've been doing, because of the demand on them by this regime that they return back the money that they have stashed abroad. They had to rush to get Raila to give him money to come to the streets 6 months after election.
Let me take it away from you and back to Alai. Honorable Lekina Ladama says, pray very hard for Kenya. I hope there was honesty. A staunch supporter of the Kenya Kwanza government, and in Parliament we have staunch supporters of the Kenya Kwanza government. Perhaps the reason why I asked this question at the level of Parliament is this: if this is the kind of approach, the kind of view that you get in Parliament, so then what?
No, I think like Olekina is saying, that pray for this country, because if you don't get a resolution to this, then the country is going to go to the dogs. And the kind of leadership we have and how greed has permeated almost all sectors, all spheres of our life. When you see Jeremiah Kioni, Martha Karua and Kalonzo strongly standing with Baba all through this, you see, some of these leaders, after every election, they always tend to disappear for some time. But when you see them braving the tear gas, you see, for this country.
And in fact, the first time we all were told that they might not be part of the Maandamano.
That's what Kenya Kwanza, and that's where we have extremists in Kenya Kwanza who are very uncomfortable with the presence of Raila, because they know that any deal the president might have with Raila will make them, the headliners, irrelevant. And so there are people who are trying to make their lives look like the Kika Kimanis and JJ Kamotos of the current. So what we ask is that the people who have the instruments of power, let them become, let them know that they are in power. Though we know that they are in power temporarily, because things might change. The kind of leadership structure in this country can change. But the moment you get into power, you relax, you calm yourself, you try to be the peacemaker. When you have extremists in the presidency, something is not sitting pretty well, and they are not confident of themselves. We are very confident. When you saw the staffers of Raila begging police that we are peaceful at Serena, when they were being hit with tear gas and the water cannons, and they are standing, nobody got drawing their weapon, tells you that now the opposition is calmer than the government, and there's something wrong with the people in government. We need to get worried, and that has to change, because people who have the instruments of power, that's like the Americans were telling Trump that we don't need somebody who has the buttons of the nuclear codes of this country being so agitated and angry and, you know, at the blacks and everybody. The people who have the instruments of power and have the control of the army and the police and all the discipline formations need to be calm in this country. And if they are not calm soon, we have to change them.
And Linda, there is a
make it brief so that we can also
yes, there's a problem in those statements. You know, the likes of Robert Alai and their folks are living the days of Ruto Uhuru differences.
Okay.
They want and they imagine the same coming into Kenya Kwanza.
But why would you purport to go against what the president says? Because from what did the
president say? The president said that we want a bipartisan process in parliament on everything within the law, within the constitution, on one subject only, IBC. The constitution.
And Kenyans are asking, why is it that you're overlooking the cost of living?
Why? Because we already have solutions for cost of living. Okay. The cost of living, he said, one, we have food coming in. Yeah. In fact, it has landed much of it. Two, while they are running with sufurias on the head, I have just finished planting and paliliaring my place. Okay. And we took the mbolea fertilizer that the government brought and the cheap seed. They are not talking about how much bolea was then during the handshake. Okay. Right now, I've just done my 40 acres, right now. Yeah. And it is going on. You know I'm a village boy. I'm not even in this, that's why the jam and all. We are doing that while they are running and burning places. So there will be food. So the mchele and mafuta and maize has just landed. The cost of food is coming down. That's what we are saying is an issue for now, because already government has given it solutions.
Patience, what do you think Sunday is telling us?
I mean, I've been worried about Sunday's comments because really, are we taking Kenyans for a ride? Yeah. When we asked Kenyans to demonstrate, it was really about them bringing down the cost of food, I would say. And the reason is 6 months down the line, we had promises that were made by Kenya Kwanza. And while we want to believe that all the promises were cushioning Kenya Kwanza, and as I said before you came here, I said, well, I would like to give the government some time. It's too early to, you know, to condemn it for all that is happening. We have a share of on blame, I would say, a share of, you know, let's take the blame as well as Kenyans. What are we doing? How are we, you know, sustaining our lives ourselves? So I think for me, I would say, taking the matter becoming IBC, the only problem we have is IBC worries me, Sunday.
No, I didn't say that. I'm saying these other ones did not warrant a demonstration. Okay. We already have solutions. For example, solution for opening the server was solved by the IBC, by the IBC. In the process, so it is not a problem. Secondly, about the food, we said that we are working. By the way, it's work in progress this way. We found this food, like unga particularly. I heard you talk about unga very much. Yeah. About unga, we found it at 230. Right now it's at 180. Something is being done from 230 to 180. Without subsidies. By the way, you must. We are now not giving the public an extra bill. Without the subsidies, we have managed to bring it to 180. And we are saying within the next 2-3 weeks or so, the government has already sourced, and the Deputy President Rigathi talked about it in his interview earlier, saying that Linturi was out looking for cheap maize from all over. So we have food. That is not a major issue for discussion by this bipartisan group. So we are saying that the top issues, the other two issues, are already sorted. The major issue, which even us, from within, looked at and said, yes, this warrants discussion is the IBC composition.
Dr. Didi says headliners are spoiling the whole discussion and perhaps bringing it back to the style of, I don't know, well, Gachagua, this a bit radical. Of course, this is not the position of TV47. And they say Sande Oyolo is a conflict resolution expert who has helped to resolve conflicts elsewhere, but things have changed. Why?
Things have not changed. We are just saying the truth. The truth is what I was saying, that for sure, the issue of IEBC, we have been here before. In fact, that's why I'm even siding. I had my sister talk about it earlier. Maybe leaving it just for Parliament alone may not help, because we've been here before. Yeah. I may also like what Gaido Macharia is saying, that surely this now needs a new approach. Yeah. And for me, and I like what Alai also said, that maybe new blood, new leaders need to come into this space and offer new solutions. And if you ask me, I would have even thought of a radical. Why hasn't this Raila, in all these 4 or 5 instances, thought of a radical way away from this?
Of change.
Why hasn't this media thought come up with some investigative journalism to look at other scenarios, like for example, South Africa, Robert Alai. Why are we talking just about constituting the same IEBC changing the faces? I've just seen in the People Daily the former IEBC chairman, Hassan, saying that he had...
It's on the Nation as well.
He says he had it
hard with ODM.
With ODM.
And I think maybe to justify what he says.
And all of them.
He says that Isaac Hassan acknowledges that, well, it was ODM.
It was hell.
Chebukati, hard time. Chebukati would perhaps say the same
It is
thing.
hell. Chesoni, it was hell. This man that you killed with the elections,
withdraw the statement. Was he killed?
He was killed. I haven't said by who. I haven't said by who. But I'm saying the stress of elections killed Kivuti.
Perhaps that.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
I think it's time to review the word independence.
Yes.
That's where it starts.
Independence.
Where is the independence of IEBC? Because it means exactly that. But all the time we look at this all political interference that happens from all the sides. We know that, well, I really don't know whether it being funded by government is really, you have a better say or you have a larger say into what happens. And I'm looking at the process when they have brought in different stakeholders into the conversations. As I said, I appeared before this IBC panel last week on Wednesday, and we raised our issues as the media group. What are we looking for in the next IEBC and IEBC commissioners? And that was a very interesting conversation, because the whole panel was there to listen. And they have brought in various people to come on board. Yeah. So I want to believe that if we focus on the matters and we focus on the independence of the commission, then maybe we'll be getting somewhere. But this interference and constant interference that everyone else needs to have a say in that IBC
becomes a problem. And Robert Alai, I'll ask you, have you sat for a moment to think about what will play out in the event that there's going to be adjustments as to what we already have, the select panel that is already working.
Yeah,
are they going to go to court to challenge the fact that now you want to change this that was done constitutionally?
Like I told you, I'm very worried when people are looking at a very short and selfish interest and not looking at the interest of this country. When you hear the people who are saying that they're in the ruling party, raise their voice and not their arguments, you hear, this is the worry we have. We have to tone down, we have to relax, we have to tell the country where it's supposed to go. Yeah. The fact that people are in office or people already, the selection panel has already been constituted does not mean that it can't be reconstituted. When this country was facing much bigger problems in 1992, we repealed Section 2A. When this country needed a new constitution, we removed the old constitution and put in a new constitution. When this country needed IPPG, we did that and put in a new one. When this country, needed a better governance structure, let me tell you, look at the profile and the CV and the footprints of Raila Amolo Odinga. Whatever he has touched and put in and delivered, I would like Sunday to
You know, when you have the instruments of power, you relax and be confident with your
you're reminded that power is transient.
You know, and it changes very fast. You know, and I know the president knows he is consuming the intelligence of this country now. No, he is no longer the deputy president, and when he's no longer the deputy president, he knows that the hardliners in his camp will have to go away when you want to achieve his interest. And nobody there is indispensable. When this country, wherever, let me tell you, the footprints of Raila in this country has been all positive. The gains Raila Odinga as an individual has made in this country will be celebrated not when he is in this world, but when he is already gone. Because the moment you leave the likes of Sunday Oyolo, imagine putting Sunday Oyolo in the Ministry of Interior for 1 week.
With such hardliner position. Why don't you allow for dialogue to happen? Why don't you allow for what the president said?
What the president has said, the dialogue in parliament within the law, bipartisan,
that is okay.
on IBC.
That is okay. But you.
That's what we. That's to that extent. It's okay. It's just like allowing a lie to be a minister for housing in this country.
Okay.
He is already saying that housing is a bad thing. People don't need houses. That's why he's promoting Kibra. That's why his own ward is turning out to be a slum.
As opposed to
Kileleshwa. It's now a slum. I used to stay there. I can't. I have to leave. The sewerage line is already congested.
Is it?
Yes.
Why?
Don't even ask. It's actually
a fact.
It is the home of all bars and clubs in this city. And we are not going to, you can't have that kind of arrangement. We are doing the housing for many other reasons. One of the reasons why housing is important is because of the jobs that it offers to our young people. So we will have houses in every county. Secondly, we are talking about the urban rural migration. We are talking about devolution. We have officers working in Kakamega town, but they don't have where to stay. They have to either stay with their children, leave their children in Nairobi, and come back to Nairobi every week. We are talking about the same in Homa Bay, in Siaya, and everywhere. And that's why we want to urbanize the whole country. So when we are doing that, it is focused. We are also saying that the cement we are using is from our industries.
But he has
so
a
it's
valid
our economy.
point that at least we have structures that are already up, and those ones should
No,
be.
in fact, what he said, he conflicted himself. He talked about the long gone days when the government was in the transport sector and the transport sector was working well. Now he says that the government should get out of housing. When the government got out of housing, like in Jericho, Buruburu, and what have you, they are Kileleshwa. It's now a slum. They are all slums. So we must, his notion, his thinking is the right one, that we must still inject government presence so that we kill Kibera. You know, actually, most of our problem in this Maandamano, I heard my sister saying that many people turned out for Maandamano. It's not many people. We have been doing
at
this.
least that we witnessed.
No,
perhaps
the people,
not to
the people we
expectation.
know, the people we saw. That's why they could not come to the city. They had to. Raila had to go to them. He had to come to Madare. He had to go to Kibera where they are.
And successfully managed to get.
No, of course. When you come to my house, you'll find me. Lastly, this notion that it is all about Raila, it is a fallacy. There was a man in this country who paid it all with his body, his health, his life, his wealth, called Matiba Kenneth. All. He died a done man. We had a man called in this country Charles Rubia. We had people like Mwashengo Machofi. We had Abuya. We had people who
worked. I'll tell you that Robert Alai did not say that there was the existence of these people, but
because the factor was right. They say that this guy is like is the savior of this country.
What are you telling? What are you telling the people of Kenya today? Because we are all excited and we're thinking it's business as usual, and now people can do their businesses, and now we're positive that something good is going to come out of this. But the position that you're taking tells us contrary. And knowing that you are a firm supporter of the Kenya Kwanza government, we attempted to imagine that you're speaking for the government.
Yes. The good things out of this is that, one, we have a country that has toned down.
Yes.
From the confusion of looting mortuaries and looting shops
how will it
supermarkets.
in this kind of position that you hold?
My position is we do what the president has said. He called there is no division within Kenya Kwanza. The whole team was called and sat down when they came back from Malava, and the whole team agreed. If you go behind the scenes, you'll find the whole team was assembled, and we agreed. It was agreed that out of all the issues that the protesters had, there is one major issue that is key. It is also has a future. The issue of IBC, it needs to be addressed by partisan, and it has to be done by law.
Whatever happened was legal in itself already, as where we are so far.
The demonstration?
No. The process of getting the select committee and the select committee that we have.
Now that's the answer that we must get also from the allies and others, because every time we've done that, it has costed us. You remember the Hassan group? We paid them to leave office.
To leave office, that's true.
You remember?
Yeah.
You remember the Chebukati group? Others had to leave, to quit. Rose had to run to the US, and now the result of it is the Chereras of this world. We bring people half-baked into the team.
How half-baked? They went through parliament, they went to the vetting process.
Because which parliament was that? It was a handshake parliament that which was prefected by the same Raila.
The current president was part and parcel of a majority of these members of parliament.
No, the current president was opposed.
That are under Kenya Kwanza were part and parcel of this.
The president and our team was opposed to that process. We actually voted against it. If you go to the
so how different this?
So this one, that's why. By the way, if you look at the body language of UDA Kenya Kwanza, we are saying let them come on the table. Let's agree the way they want it to run.
And
we don't have a problem.
This question. Yes. If you were watching us while you were on your way here, I put the picture here and I asked Patience and I asked Robert, what do they make of that picture? Is there some essence of belief? So what game are we playing here? Are we playing Kenyans? Once again, I'll ask this before we get to close down. What do we expect out of all this process? In as much as we are excited that maybe Thursday there's not going to be, protests. Monday there's not going to be protests that will have Kenyans doing their businesses as expected. But for how long, Patience?
Well, so let me reason out from a communication perspective now. Let me just get into what I do best.
Yeah.
We say at the end of every business transaction are real people with real issues. And so while we think of the politicians and we think about the people who are seated there to make decisions on behalf of Kenyans, we're looking at what is it, how does it benefit us, all of us as Kenyans. The issues that, as we're saying, well, the numbers might not be as Sunday would expect. There might not be the 6 million who voted for Raila, but well, we saw people come out. And the people had real issues. Those are the concerns that we have. And we're asking, as we keep saying, let's restart this process again, let's reconstitute this process, at whose expense? That's the question that we're asking ourselves. Is it looking, I will be rather concerned when we are thinking about issues and not personalities. Because the game of personalities for me is a matter of we lose funding, we lose a chance for us to see, we are almost in constant campaign mode, as we say. It's always about this person is, how, at what point shall we say, it's about us? Shall we say it's about that mama mboga? It's about that woman who wakes up every morning to fend for her children. It's about that person who has to make a decision whether should I go to work today or not go to work today. So for me, I would say, let's put our political hats aside and think about Kenyans. Kenyans wake up every morning to go and really make their life make sense. When we have to vote for a new government, we wake up at 5, at 6, or at 4 a.m. By 5, some of them are already on, in the line, bracing the cold weather, just to see that we have a new government. Everyone hopes that we will move into a new regime where we say, now we want to move as Kenya. I mean, we are a hub when you think about ourselves and the placement where we are as within the continent. We have a lot of people looking up to Kenya. So what are we doing, you know? So I think for me, I'm at a place I'm looking for, let's move forward. Let's give dialogue a chance. Let's give the government some time, you know, for us to say they need everyone, even if you got a new job today, let's say today you have moved to this place, even you're looking for, how do I sit here, you know, how do I move to this? You need some time to restructure yourself. And I want to believe that's what really Kenya Kwanza is doing. So I think all they need is the support from Kenyans, is the support from all of us who are really supporting them at this particular time. And therefore, they will, I mean, there's a place for everyone. There's a place for the opposition. And I would like a country that there is an opposition that puts the government in check.
Are you confident that there's not a point where you'll be forced to go back to pickets to demonstrate?
We are hopeful that, you know, there's going to be a change in the engagements, you know, no grandstanding, no chest thumping by the government in place, no people trying to tell us how we are not going to even be including the conversation. No, you know, people are trying to tell you how, with the media and so on, and you know, the deep state and so on, and telling you that, you know, you're not going to be the part of this conversation. This Kenya is for us all, na sio tafadhali. So we are going to get to be part of the conversations, and it is the only way. There is no other way. This other way being imagined is for hardliners, and they are going to be alone in the trenches. Let them know. We are so determined. I wish they let yesterday happen for the country to realize. I wish they let yesterday happen, because it was going to be the tipping point. It was going to change the direction of this country was going to take in matters regarding national conversation. I wish the headliners got their way, for people to realize what they were messing with. Because, you know, despite how many people can you arrest, how many people can you kill, how many magazines will you unload on people, the only way we had is a very peaceful way. We have demanded it, we have chanted for it, we have asked for it in a very voice. We are not going to allow a situation where government functionaries appreciate and condone the raiding of personal properties, the period where media houses would be raided, the period where the total voice of the civil society will be silenced, and everybody will be bought and brought into a corner to sing and parrot the president's tune, is long gone. You know, let me tell you for a fact that as an individual I've known and worked with, you know, even the president, after all this last election, he reminded us that he is an ODM founding member. Let's remind him that when it comes to matters governance, the people comes first. And the people we represent are the people who are going to voice their issues. These other hardliners are going to see a different thing. And they are going to realize that they need us more in to check for them, the president, than we need them to remind us that we lost.
And you are tempting us to go back and listen or re-listen to what the president said, and perhaps listen to know whether he means it when he says that no one is going to target the media. Listen and to know whether he is genuine in this whole process. Listen and to try and understand whether we missed out on a point, because what are you telling us?
Linda, what we are saying, first of all, is that when Alai talks about hardliners, from the media perspective, you must know there are hardliners. If there are hardliners on both sides.
Yes.
You can't say, talk
There's
about
no doubt about that.
So it sounds
There's
like
no
all
hardliners
were called and assembled in Kenya Kwanza. There are hardliners like Alai on the other side. In fact, by the way, funny enough, somebody like as early as last night I saw a tweet or a write-up from Kalonzo saying that he did not know about the statement until when he had it being read.
Yes.
Which has always
and the lie too was acknowledged. In fact, I wanted to ask him whether they knew. The
same thing happened with Mudavadi and Wetangula last time, It is about this man.
Did the deputy or the Kenya Kwanza team have an idea of this?
Yes.
The president had told you?
Yes.
Okay.
Then there was a meeting, and the president called them for a meeting. The president, you remember, had just come from a journey, and he called all of them.
So there were no surprises?
Oh, there were no surprises. Even the statement, by the way, do you know the statement was penned down while the president was talking?
It was just the previous day that they had spoken and appeared to again take a hardliner
by
position.
regarding himself. No, the president may give the leadership, you get, but you see finally it is discussed. It's not the way Uhuru did and Raila. They're leaving their people behind and deciding. Another thing that I want you to trust the president's word on freedom of the media and internet. He said it very categorically. We are not just about to lock anywhere. We are free. We want to be engaged. We ran this campaign without media support. So yeah, nothing, zero. In fact, the media was on the other side.
I beg to differ, and it wasn't a campaign.
I can tell you,
beg to differ, and it was not a campaign.
We actually ran against a whole media campaign.
You see, it is not for the media to help you campaign, but we gave
you
coverage.
The other. But
No. We gave balanced coverage. Personally, I was here from day one to the very last day of the campaign.
You, Linda, I know I can vote for you, but you are not the media. I'm not talking about
the media.
No, you are part of the media. I'm talking about the media. So, and this thinking that Museveni controls us, it's wrong. It is actually been said. You see, the same thing we can talk about Ramaphosa running Raila and many others, and the funding. We don't go into those places. We are an independent, sovereign state, and we do things our way. So as we are assuring the country, our president is a believer. This government is a government of believers who know that blood. This threat that there was a mega something on Monday. We were prepared for it. We were prepared for it, and it was going to be. They were going to face it. But what the president does not like, whereas our guys on the other side, they enjoy the blood. They enjoy. We have a guy.
Sunday, I don't think that is the case, really. To address the
how do you then explain?
To argue that anyone who
let me ask you, Linda. How do you then explain the death of a man called Odwor?
And that is unfortunate. That is quite unfortunate.
A policeman in Kisumu streets, killed on the streets of Kisumu.
So
this man from Muyoma.
Why are you people then not allowing for us to have a sober conversation in relation to this without bringing in the name of Raila Odinga?
Sober conversation. Actually, back to what Ali said, we need new set of
leadership.
Set of leadership to have it a different way. I have known Ali almost all my life, and we have worked with him without fighting. We have been on this side, he has been on that side, I've been on this side. All along, we've never picked stones.
Why do you want to do it
So
now?
why does this one man make us do it? So that's why we agree that we need a country that is sober. What my sister says, you may marry a woman that is willing to give birth. Whatever you do, it has to take 9 months. Whatever you do, she is willing. She wants to have babies with you, but it will take 9 months.
So you can't allow the government to work.
Anybody who even in thinking before these elections, all plannings, all the planners, all the World Bank, the IMF, all of them, the economics, they told us, whoever takes this government, whether it's Ruto or Raila, it will take a year or 2 to fix.
So the Right Honourable Raila Odinga is privy to this information.
He knows very well that we needed time. manifesto and subsume it into, we have our manifesto, we have our way, we have our direction, and we have a particular way of doing. We had to clean the house and start afresh.
You're taking too long to clean the house, Sunday.
6 months.
Okay. 1 minute, Patience. Close it for us because you're the neutral party here.
I'm going to speak on behalf of my colleagues within the media industry that are being accused of being biased. And I like that the president says, we're going to support you regardless of how biased you can.
Yes.
So the unpacking of bias is something we will need to discuss at some point. But as it is now, I'll say I'm using statistics here. This is a research that was done by Constructive Journalism immediately after the elections. And we're looking at how the various coverage platforms, media platforms gave the kind of coverage that they gave. And you'll be surprised to know that in newspapers, William Ruto actually got a highest frequency, which was 774 times.
Negative,
that's a different conversation altogether. What we're saying is,
you can say this is Sunday bad, Sunday bad.
But if it's bad, what are we supposed to do?
What we're saying is, have we given you coverage? The answer is yes. And how many times?
Coverage?
Then we will unpack the coverage in terms of positive or negative or neutral. That's a different conversation altogether. As compared to Raila Odinga, who got newspaper coverage at 720, which is 44.7%, and William Ruto at 48.0%. When it comes to television, of course, it's the other way around. We gave Raila Odinga it was covered 818 times, which is 49.4, and compared to William Ruto, 669, which was 40.4%. And then in radio, almost the same percentage again, 627 times for William Ruto and Raila Odinga at 58.2. Well, I will agree that we gave them more percentage in terms when it comes to television and radio, but it is not as bad as we gave for Wajakoya. He was also completely, he was also
Maure
did
not get a thing.
Yeah, they actually had 1.5, 5.8, 1.5, but they are political candidates, and at the same manner, they deserve the same
president.
So
they all deserve.
They
all deserve.
Of course.
But why the bias?
Allow us to close this at this very point. So that perhaps is one.
My conclusion is I'm saying it's important for us to respect the work that we do as journalists and the work that my colleagues do to bring this information to light and to give people. It's enshrined within the Constitution.
And they respect themselves.
Well, of course we do. Yes, don't you think so?
Not 100%.
100%.
No. Actually, I had, if you opened it a little bit, I had them discuss this in Manzoni. And I loved it. Because actually, we can't even blame our brothers and sisters on the beat. We also blame the media houses. I had someone bring it out very well. This boy comes from Makadara to town, has no fare, is not paid on time. The media houses have neglected them. They are paying themselves the salary. They delay to pay the media houses. Then they find someone on the way who pays them something kidogo to cover them. Then they become biased.
Okay, interesting. Gentlemen, I'll allow you extra time because
independence is very important. Also, our code of ethics and conduct as journalists is very important. Let's adhere to that at all times so that even us, we dignify the work that we do.
And the media house owners should also stay away or declare openly. Because if you are funding this one candidate and you want to tell us you are neutral,
why are you not finding another one to fund you? Anyway, you see, my boss is here. I cannot afford to take that direction. Thank you so much, Honorable Sunday Oyolo, that is politician and Western Kenya Kwanza coordinator, right? As well as Patience Nyange, Executive Director, AMUG. Thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. And lastly, Honorable Robert Alai, Member of County Assembly of Kilifi.
Remember, Sandy has spoken for 20 minutes. I have not responded.
So can I give you a minute? Can I give you a minute?
Just
a max.
The closing remarks. I want to say that the kind of violence you witnessed you remember yesterday there was a suspect who was arraigned in court for the extraction last week. And he thought his arrest was a fool's day prank because he was very far much from these activities. The DPP and the DCI knew why they were going for people who are innocent because the instigators of violence were state actors.
But at least they dropped these charges.
I hope they are going to drop it because nobody from our camp was involved in this.
They have committed to do that. So
thank you. But we hope that, even if you drop the charges, ensure that the victims get compensated and also get closure, because there were people whose properties were destroyed.
Yeah.
Who destroyed them?
Right.
Get the real suspects.
But
thank
the
you so
pictures,
much. We have to
the way we
close.
did the
Celia, we
pictures
have to
with
close.
the issue of
Celia,
the
we have to
land and
close.
the goats and the trees.
Uh-huh.
The same way media came out with those pictures, who did that?
Was
we
it
want
media?
also the pictures of the